Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Have you ever wondered what games you should sell or you should use? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Find out on our top 10 list what games you cannot miss. Don't forget to subscribe to Purge
Here are
Reviews.
the components for Cottage Garden. You get a very beautiful representation of the game. You have your pots that you'll be building. You have the cottage kind of look, the tools that you'll be using. The Great Designer Series number 8, Rulebook brings you Cottage Garden and the Stronghold. I just like this package quite a bit when you open it up. Now I've added these. I get these at the dollar store, but as you can see, I have little cat chits in here, and these just all just have pictures of cats on them. They're just little tokens. Very, very nice. You're also going to get these little chits, just like the cat ones, but they're going to have orange pots on them, which you'll use for scoring. You're going to get a real nice wheelbarrow that really doesn't do anything, but it's pretty cool the way it's put together. You're going to get these little orange and blue cubes, a green die, and this little cardboard parasol. A number of these, which I'll show you when we're playing, but they're just little cottage tiles in different shapes. These will be the boards that you'll play on, and each one's a little bit different and double-sided, as you can tell, and they have little different patterns on that you'll be utilizing. These are the scoring tracks that you'll be using in the game, and the little boards will fit in here. I'll show you the setup in just a second. And then you're going to have the main board, which will be double-sided depending on the number of players that you want. You'll put the little tiles on here. And you'll get a rule book. And the first thing you'll notice about the rule book is that it's not very long. Lots of white in here, and a lot of pictures and stuff, and a picture of each of the puzzle pieces for the game that you have, and a little advertisement on the back. The first thing I want to do is show you the main board. So you'll have this when you're playing the game, and it'll be set up kind of like this with random pieces in each of the squares. It's a 4x4 grid. You will also have a track moving around. You'll be utilizing a die that will be moving around the board. And if you can look here, there's a 1 arrow, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you always know where you're going to be going because of the number attached to it. So for the first round, you'll be moving this die around. The second person will pick from this row, then the third player this one, the fourth one here, and the first one will go diagonal. And then the second guy, third guy, blah, blah, blah. Every time it goes around the board, you move the die to showcase that it's the next round. That's the use of that, and you'll be picking these pieces off. If a board you ever get to a row or column and there's only one here, then you will pick up from the reserve and add in the pieces to the board, like such. If there's only 1 or 2 pieces left, you can spend one of your cat tokens and you can refill up if you want some additional options. The other thing you can do is you can always take, instead of taking a tile, if you don't take a tile and you take a pot instead, the die still moves ahead, which is fine, but you won't take any from that row. And you can take one of these pots and put it on your board. And these pots will be represent victory points if you do not cover them up. So that's kind of how this board moves. Every player would take turns, and they'll take one of these and place them on their board, or they would take a pot instead if there's nothing there they like, or it would cause too much damage to them. At the start of the game, each player will have a scoring board like such with 3 orange and 3 blue squares, and you'll have a light and a dark board at random. These are double-sided. And as you take tiles from the main board that I have already shown you, you will start to fill up the board, and you can kind of move these around and flip around. So when you take a tile, you place it on the board, and say I was able to take another one. Now you're gonna have these orange and blue pots on them. You can always cover them up, but you really don't want to. And here's another one. This one actually has an additional pot on it, and you can kind of fill this up. And sometimes you'll have pieces that are too big, and you can place on either board that you want, as long as you have the 2 boards. So you can always take a pot on a turn instead of a tile if you like I showed you earlier. And that can kind of help fill in the little spaces maybe that wouldn't be possible for you to fill in. Once your board is full, you can score it. Now, if you didn't have enough to fill everything in, say I have one more space there, I could either take an action, take an orange and fill it up, or I can utilize one of these cats. And these cats are just space fillers. They don't score anything, but they let you go ahead and fill in the space. And when you fill it in, you can go ahead and score this board. The way you score the boards is very easy. For every orange on there, you're going to move up the orange track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would take the orange and move it up 6 spaces on the track. For every blue, I would score 2. So 1, 2, and then move up 2 spaces on the track. But every blue space is worth 2 victory points instead of 1. The oranges are worth 1 apiece, and the blue is worth 2 apiece. When this is done, you would take the cat, put it back in the reserve, take the pot that I used back in the reserve, and these would go back in the reserve and only would be utilized to fill up the board once the spaces are empty, as I showed you earlier. Then this would be flipped over. What you scored would be flipped over, put it in the reserve, and then you would take 1 from the reserve, and you would always have 2 of these boards. There's a few things about this board that's important. There's a red line right here. Whenever one of your scoring pieces crosses that red line, you're going to get a free cat. If you're the first one to get... Now when you're scoring... the orange ones or the blue ones, and let's say these 2 are already on the board being scored, and I score another board once it's full, I can pick either another orange and blue to move up, or I can move the ones I already had on the board. The key to that is if I'm able to get all 3 of my orange on the board scoring, I'm going to get 1 free pot to put immediately anywhere on my board that I want. So there's a benefit for you to get up the oranges. There is no additional benefit for getting the blues. Now, if you notice here, 15 is a top orange and it jumps to 20. 14 for blue and it jumps to 20. If I'm ever able to get my orange or my blue past this, if I'm the first person, I get the double beehive, and that allows me to score 2 additional points at the end of the game. If I'm the second person, I take the single beehive, and it gives me 1 victory point. So while you're trying to get all of these out, also, the first one here will get additional points. When you score, and you score either orange or blue or both, you can only move 1 of the tracking points. So sometimes if you're trying to get up to here, you might have to waste a point or 2 because you can't move 2 on the same tile that you're scoring. That's the entire game. It's very easy to play, very fun to play, and I highly, highly enjoy it. Stronghold Games has the latest Uwe Rosenberg game. This is the guy who's brought us Terraforming Mars. He's brought us the great game Stronghold, and he's given us perhaps his best game, Great Western Trail. And he's colliding head-to-head with the guy who brought us Agricola, Caverna, Fields of Arle, Feast of Odin, and Patchwork. With these 2 guys together, bringing us another classic game in the Great Designer series, this game is going to have to blow our minds, right? Well, the good news for you is that the game lives up to the hype. The game is as good as these 2 great board gaming champions should be. We get Cottage Garden, which is a new 1 to 4 player game brought to you by Stronghold and Uwe Rosenberg together. This is a game that plays a little bit like Feast for Odin, but a whole lot like Patchwork, the great 2-player game. Now, Cottage Garden has you building a garden, and you're going to be doing this by covering up spaces and leaving your pots and stuff uncovered so you can score points. There's going to be some decisions about what to move up the scoring track and what to bring back. The game is interesting because this little counter's going to be moving around, and every time you choose, there's going to be different pieces that are going to fit on your board. And of course, all of these pieces are not exactly going to fit the way that you want them to. So there's a lot of this little, I got to fit this here, flip it over, does it fit there? So the game can have some AP when you have a choice of like say 4 and your board's getting full and you kind of put it here, does it fit? No, let me flip it, no. The good thing is you can look ahead on most turns and you can start fiddling with it and placing, okay, blah, blah, blah. There's a little bit of overlap sometimes, but you can kind of see that coming, and maybe those times you have to wait. There is something you can do on every single turn. So even if that doesn't fit, you can always take a pot and add it. The scoring is really easy. Now this takes from Feast of Odin, where you're going to be filling up the board and trying to do that little spatial intelligence kind of thing there. So it has a little bit of that. That's all it takes from Feast for Odin. It plays a lot more like Patchwork. So if you're a fan of Patchwork, but maybe want a little bit different theme or wanted to play with a different number of players, then this is probably going to appeal to you. You could definitely check out the app of Patchwork if you don't have the board game and see if you like that to see if you like this. Now I have to say I do really like this game. It plays really quick, especially if you have players who don't get bogged down in that analysis paralysis. The game's going to move really quickly. There's a finite amount of turns you're going to have in this game. And once you get to the 6th round, you're losing points every turn to take a turn. So you really have to think about, do I want to try to progress with more points? Because I'm going to be losing points every round. You can quickly lose 6 to 8 points by taking 3 to 4 actions. And that can really start to pile up. And you have to think, am I going to score more than that by taking these actions? There's a little bit of that at the end, which I kind of like. You also have these cats that allow you to fill up the board and allow you to add more pieces to the master board for your row if you want some different options. And you can always see what's available and what's coming down the pike because it comes out in a certain order. I have to say, this probably isn't the masterpiece as something as heavy as Caverna or Agricola is. I think that's fair to say. But what you do get here is Patchwork on steroids. And if you like Patchwork, I think you're really going to like this. And I think for some of us, this may replace Patchwork. Patchwork's a really tight 2-player game, but this one also plays 2-player, plays an awful lot like it, and gives you the ability to play solo and more players. Now, they're not exactly the same game. There are quite a few differences in it. But I gotta say, this is a game that I don't normally like. I don't normally like that spatial intelligence. The first time I saw it was Princes of Florence. We were trying to piece things together, and I hated that game because of that when I first got into gaming. But now I gotta say, I really like this game. I think Stronghold has a winner on their hands. I hope they market this game. There's a huge crowd that will like this, and the theme is really gonna fit in with that crowd. With that said, is the heavy gamer going to like it? I don't know. There's not a whole lot of choices that you have in, say, a Feast for Odin or, a big Euro like the Gallerist. But that's not really the market that we're going for here. This is a worthy addition to the designer series, the great designer series that Stronghold is putting on. I think this is going to appeal to nearly anyone. I think to get good at it, you will practice and get better at the game. I think that's totally in there. I've seen my scores go up as I've played it. And when I'm playing against tougher competition, I can see the scores kind of level out. I like that quite a bit. I think there's a lot in this box. I think this game is really fun. On any given turn, you have 1 or 2 different actions you can take. And it's really about fitting those pieces in. So I think the game is wonderful. I think they've done a great job with it. The components are good, and the overall package is good. This is sort of a unique game for me. Like I said, I don't buy a lot of games like this. I don't have a lot because I don't tend to like them. But when I do like them, and people ask me all the time, why do you review Take That games if you don't like them? Why do you review this abstract game if you don't like it? Because when I like it, it means something. I really try to be straight in the reviews and tell you, look, this is a good game. And if I don't normally like this genre of games or this mechanism, but I like this one, so that might mean something to you. I don't normally like spatial intelligence games. I really don't. I like this one, and I've played it over and over and over again since I got it. It moves quickly. It's really fun. It's easy to teach. The options on your turn, while tricky, are simple, and it adds a lot to this game. So I'm telling you, I was told that when I got this game, I bought it at Dice Tower Con. It had not been released in stores yet. You may not be able to get this game, but when it does, I highly recommend you checking this out. This sounds like a game that you would like at all. Cottage Garden was much better than I thought it would be. Much, much better. It's not that heavy, ooey game. This is going to be a little bit lighter with that spatial, but man, is it good. And you always have interesting decisions. There's plenty of tiles in the game, and I like trying to beat my score from last time, and I like trying to beat my competitors in this. So there's not a whole lot of player interaction. I'm not directly, sometimes I take something maybe you need, but it almost seems like an afterthought. I really need to take what I need to take. Now you can cover up some of the pots. I haven't done a whole lot of my games. I always try not to cover them up, probably to a fault at times. And maybe I would score more points if I just quickly churn those boards. But I do have to say that I'm having a great time with this game. I highly recommend it to you. Cottage Garden, Stronghold, you've done it again. Uwe Rosenberg, You done it again. And those guys combined, I hope I see them combine again in the future. Excellent purchase and an absolute keeper. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel. Lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.